Meruem is a character whose identity and purpose are in constant flux throughout Hunter x Hunter. Not human and not monster, he finds himself in a unique middle ground that perfectly embodies the nuanced and morally complex nature of the anime's expansive cast. Despite his nature as a villain within the bounds of the Chimera Ant arc, Meruem's story is, in essence, a hero's journey. The only thing differentiating the King of the Ants from the heroes that we've come to love throughout fiction are the heavily flawed morals he was initially raised with. Not only is Meruem not truly a villain, he follows the traditional story arc of a flawed hero. The hero's journey is a universally recognized structure in storytelling that protagonists across nearly every genre will undergo. This structure is divided into three major story components: departure, initiation, and return, which are further subdivided into 12 individual steps, each one corresponding to a point in Meruem's individual story. Step 1. The Ordinary World. Meruem is born the King of the Chimera Ants, a title that is accompanied by power far beyond the magnitude of what is possessed by any other major character across the series. This first step of the hero's journey is our first exposure to what is their ordinary world. In the case of most heroes, this represents either a spatial world or an interpersonal one. This could be the character's hometown or the loved ones that they are initially surrounded by. In Meruem's case, this world is a moral one. It is his initial understanding of structural hierarchies and what traits make a life worthwhile. As Meruem is born, he is surrounded by the royal guards, whose sole responsibility is to groom him for a position of ultimate power and ensure he reaches that point. This initial moral ideal is what we can consider his first ordinary world across his story arc. Steps 2 and 3. Call to Adventure and Refusal. Meruem's initial call to adventure is immediate, and it's the death of his mother. As Meruem's journey outside of his ordinary world is a moral one and not a physical one, the state of the Ant Queen is his first major chance to challenge his inherent morals. But instead of helping his mother, he leaves her to die, retaining the internal sense of superiority that he has built his whole identity around. At this time, his entire moral compass revolves around him and only him. Not only does he see himself as being above others, his own success and well-being are prioritized above the combined well-being of everyone else. Step 4. Meeting the Mentor. The fourth step in the hero's journey is the meeting of a mentor. Typically, this individual provides necessary information to the hero and guides them across the threshold into the foreign, special world that they may go to. In Meruem's case, this figure comes in an unlikely form. After departing with his royal guards by his side, Meruem takes over the central palace of East Gorteau, which he and his guards transform into his new base of operations. Here, to combat the boredom that comes with waiting for the next step of their plan, he challenges East Gorteau's top board game champions to matches of their respective specialties. His unmatched intelligence and strategy-oriented mind allow him to swiftly outwit and defeat all of his opponents. That is, all except Komugi. Strangely, one blind little girl is able to consistently defeat Meruem, no matter how much he improves at gungi. Step 5. Crossing the Threshold. For the first time in his life, Komugi has forced Meruem to confront the morals that until this point he had accepted without question. Despite his superiority, both physically and in almost every category, Komugi represented one opponent that Meruem could not defeat. It is here that Meruem finally begins to face an internal conflict that would otherwise never have occurred to him. Despite their lack of physical power in comparison, do the lives of others contain inherent value due to each individual's unique talents and strengths? While his conclusion is initially that strength is superior to all other skills, this first seed of doubt represents a traversal into an alien world for Meruem, one in which the moral compass that had been biologically within him from birth may not be entirely accurate. Step 6. Tests, Allies, and Enemies. While his confrontation with Netero is the defining point of the arc, in Meruem's story it is merely a precursor to the climactic ordeal. In the build-up to this battle, Komugi is severely injured, and Meruem entrusts Pito with her safe recovery. And while Pito does everything in his power to abide by the king's wishes, Shiapoof, another one of the king's guards, preys on her destruction. He may not know it, but in this journey, Meruem's closest ally, aside from Komugi herself, is Pito, and his most troublesome enemy is Shiapoof. Step 7. Approach to the Inmost Cave. This step represents the build-up to the key conflict. In Meruem's journey, this is his battle with Netero, For the first time, this conflict gives Meruem the chance to vocalize his new and ever-changing morality, and the strength of his opponent provides him with additional admiration for the lives of humans, a feeling he would never have initially experienced. As the duel ends, Netero reveals the extent of the malice possessed in the depth of the human psyche, and it is by this action that Meruem's memory is inevitably lost, providing him with the motivation for his final and decisive conflict. Step 8. The Ordeal. This is the key turning point in every hero's journey, and for Meruem, this is his amnesia. Upon the conclusion of his battle with Netero, Meruem is left barely alive and must be resurrected by 2 of his royal guards. Upon his revival, he is significantly stronger, but must slowly piece together information due to the memory loss incurred from the fight. He knows that the most important thing to him, his time with Komugi, is missing from his mind, but cannot place what it is. The opponent in this ordeal is Shiapuf, who is doing everything possible to remove all traces of Komugi's existence, ensuring that she is forgotten by the king forever, and would, in doing so, completely reset the progress that the king has made in his moral journey. This conflict is finally resolved when Welfin, one of the squadron leaders of the Chimera Ants, is interrogated and reveals Komugi's name to the king. Steps 9 and 10. The Reward and the Road Back. Upon hearing her name, Meruem is flooded with memories of Komugi and their time playing gungi together. It is at this point that Meruem realizes his true goals, not to achieve a position of ultimate power or to conquer humanity, but to play gungi with this girl, the only thing that has ever brought him true joy and satisfaction. Using his newly enhanced N, Meruem is able to detect where Komugi has been taken and quickly track her down. Step 11. The Resurrection. This is the step that differs most for Meruem from the typical archetype of a hero's journey. As opposed to the standard resurrection, Meruem experiences a sort of final rebirth. The person he finds at the end of his search for Komugi is Palm. Upon meeting her, he falls to his knees and asks her to aid him in his journey to reconnect with Komugi. His self-centered ideology is now gone, replaced with a goal to learn, improve, and spend time with the human he now cares about. This act represents the final step in his rebirth as a new being entirely. No longer the king of the ants, now just Meruem, with his own passions and desires outside of power, and with a newfound care for others. Specifically, Komugi. Step 12. Return. Meruem's return to his ordinary world is both a literal and figurative one. On one hand, he is returning to Komugi, his mentor who has allowed him to begin his change into a new being entirely, and his motivation throughout this journey. On the other hand, he is now returning to a stable moral state. His internal conflict between his biological imperative to be strong and his humanity and care for others has come to an end, and he can once again exist within a stable state of mind, which to him is his ordinary world. That being said, unlike with traditional heroes, this is short-lived. Step 13. Subversion. This is not a step possessed in the regular hero's journey. While his growth as a character embodies that of the hero's journey, his ending does not. Meruem returns to the comfort of a consistent worldview and the joy of gungi with Komugi, only to lose it all immediately. Meruem was poisoned by the initial explosion from Netero, and because of this, both he and Komugi are destined for a swift death. Knowing this, the two both choose to spend their last moments doing what they loved most in the world, playing gungi, before dying in each other's arms. Meruem's character experiences such significant growth across the Chimera Ant arc, and in his final state before death, he is a contradiction in every way. A king without subjects, the most powerful being alive, and yet unable to save himself and the one true person he loves. A villain with the journey of a hero, destined to be forgotten by all except the girl who dies alongside him.